spontaneous human speech sound with no meaning, so it's kind of like speaking in tongues. Usually you find it with religious people, people who meditate, and sometimes it can be induced by stress.
We're trying to study the abstract linguistic attributes of it, the speech sounds, how they combine in different ways and how they change, to see if meaningless speech behaves the same way as speech that has a meaning.
Right now, our job this semester was to listen to a particular person and transcribe a speech. So basically we're writing it down in IPA, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet, which has one symbol for each speech sound in the entire world.
And because a lot of languages share the same sounds, we only need about 100 symbols, which is challenging, but it's doable.
From all the transcribing we've done, I think we have the largest data pool to date.
We have actually 23 hours of glossolalia. We listen to 2 seconds at a time, and just half a minute of speech takes about an hour to transcribe.
Our longest segments, I guess, were 5 minutes, but that's a couple of hours of work. Our first segments, I guess, we got were about 25 to 30 seconds.
We look at spectrograms to make sure that our ears aren't tainted by our native language, which they are. And spectrograms is basically a visual way of looking at sound. And based on differences in the spectrogram, we can transcribe the sounds accurately. We can be sure that we're getting them accurately.
English speakers can't tell the difference between the P at the beginning of a word and, say, a P after an S, like in spill. They sound different, but you can see the difference on spectrogram. So what we transcribed isn't completely biased by speaking English. Kate's Polish, so she heard it's a hard sh, but I can't make the sound. But she distinguished the difference in that and the regular one in English, and I couldn't hear it. So it's always helpful to have people that aren't just English speakers.
Glossolalia is presumed to be a random generation of speech sounds, and that's proven not to be the case at all. In fact, several segments are repeated consistently, consisting of several sounds. I mean, the speaker particularly liked the segment koyaba. That was sort of, his word, and it's strange to think that he has words because it's meaningless speech, but he seems to be developing a vocabulary.
I was concentrating on consonant clusters in his glossolalia, and what I've found is that he has a lot of English clusters, but there's also a trill, which is r, and you don't find that in English. That's only found in Spanish and other languages, obviously. But he has that plus an L, so that combination is not found in English, but it's found in his glossolalia, which is really interesting. I mean, I think he did have minimal Spanish contact, or...
Yeah, he studied Spanish for a period of time.
He was missing some English sounds that are very frequent in English in his glossolalia, and he had non-native English sounds in his glossolalia.
You can see if there's different similarities between one person's glossolalia and another's, and then decide if there's an overarching set of characteristics that sort of pertains to glossolalia in general. And we each wrote a paper, and it got published in an online archive.
What it could help do is, like, in the long run, after this research, and if you do fMRIs on people who are doing glossolalia and regular speech, if there are different functions in the brain when you have premeditated speech and when you don't. So that could also, help in the cognition field. So our faculty advisor is Paul DeLacy.
He's been very, very supportive. He actually programmed software that allows us to do transcription electronically with the spectrogram, and even programmed separate software that would help us navigate through the data.
One of the programs he developed for me was the extraction of consonant clusters. We wouldn't have to go through all my transcriptions and everybody else's and look for clusters. It did it automatically.
I'm interested very much in Native American languages, and particularly documenting them and describing them. So this experience has been very helpful because they have complicated sound systems, and I'll be able to more accurately transcribe those languages in the IPA now that I have experience transcribing glossolalia.
I'm gonna go to grad school for speech pathology.
And ultimately, probably want to work with kids. And this has been actually very helpful because of all the transcribing we've been doing, and that's primarily one of the things I'll be doing with speech pathology. Is if you're working with kids and fixing speech and stuff, you're going to have to transcribe what they're saying.
It's always good to have experience, and it sets you apart having all the research that Rutgers offers, as opposed to kids coming from other schools. So when you apply to grad school, they look at that and they say, oh, wow, you've already done research and stuff like that. You seem to be more prepared than just taking classes.
I think it's just interesting that no one's really studied this in detail, and the few studies there have been, they weren't conducted with very sound methods, and we're just figuring out stuff that no one's ever figured out before about glossolalia, which is very exciting.